Hi, well, lots of questions to get through this week. Like I said to you before, the Q&A section is all about giving you guys a chance to get your questions in and me answering them on video, give you a little bit more detail than you get, say, just if I manage to text you back. Okay, so first question is from an Andrew Kit. It says, I was wondering if you've got any tips for Bloodworm and Joker fishing at Barston. It's the first time that I've ever fished the place and the first time that the fishing with Bloodworm and Joker. First time that he's been fishing with Bloodworm and Joker. I've checked your Bloodworm tips and I see that they've got me thinking how I need to fish, but it's obviously different because I fish for carp a lot. Okay, hi Andrew, I know that you've probably already been to Barston and fished with the juniors on your development day, and the guys there have taught you a lot. A few bits of advice I'd offer you for Bloodworm and Joker fishing. It's very much a case of where you feed your Bloodworm and Joker, where you feed your Joker in your ground bait, that is exactly where the fish will be. That is the biggest thing with Bloodworm and Joker fishing. It's not like another bait where you may try fishing past your bait or to the side. The fish will always be on your bait. So please keep that as the primary thought when you're fishing, okay? You're also fishing for a mixed bag of fish because you're going to be fishing for an odd big bream, skimmers, roach, a bit of everything. So you need rigs to cover it. You need roach rigs with small hooks and light elastics, maybe fishing just on the bottom, just off the bottom. Or you need to be, and you also need a rig for a slightly heavier elastic, say a number 6, something like that, for fishing, say 3, 4, 5 bloodworms, or a maggot and 3 or 4 bloodworms over depth for bream and skimmers, or maybe an odd F1. So you need to think a little bit about your rigs and go from there. There's always plenty of bloodworm advice out there. There's articles on the website that did detail the feeding. There's always different things. I know you've already been on your day, so I hope that that's going to help you push on from there. Alright? If you ever want to look at anything more specific in the future, don't hesitate to send your question in. Next question I've got is from a Dan Archer. It says, hi Lee, I'm trying to cut down the amount of floats that I carry and therefore need to purchase. Tackle manufacturers won't be very happy with that. Could you please share your thoughts on glass stems replacing wire stems for extra durability while retaining stability? I do like using wire stems for carp, but always seem to trash the float with the fish thrashing around in the net. So as of now, I use some Drennan floats, I use some Nick Gilbert floats, and a few other patterns for open water. I hope this can help. Okay Dan, first of all, you need to pop over to my tackle reviews bit and look at floats for commercial fisheries. That's a really good guide, a detailed guide showing you how I choose my floats and how I keep everything simple just to apply to 2 or 3 pieces. Okay, I've also done a piece in Match Fishing magazine about preparation, which I'm going to put on the website as well. So if you look at those 2 things, they'll give you a great start. What I would say to you directly, just to answer one of your specific questions, is on the wire and glass. For commercial fishing, wire is lovely, don't get me wrong. When your float is stable, it works nice. Personally, I do prefer glass. I do think glass is more durable. I do think that it gives you the stability that you need, and you are less likely to break your floats. There are some excellent floats out there from all sorts of manufacturers. Like I've shown you in the floats for commercial fishing, I use a lot of PB Inter floats for my fishing. I keep them simple, nice thick tips, nice rounded body. I'm not one for having pencil floats and a round body float and then a different float for this. I try to keep 2 or 3 patterns of floats to do nearly everything, okay? So check out that Floats for Commercial Fisheries, because it really is a good guide on how and when I use different types of floats. So I hope that helps. Okay, moving on. We've got a message from Rob. He says, hi Lee, I'm enjoying the website. Always a good way to get your question answered. I've got a match at Bank End at the end of March, but I've never fished it before and won't get a chance to go before. How would you approach it? Okay, well, those of you who know, follow the blog will know I've been to Bank End Fishery quite a bit recently. It really is a good fishery. I think one of the things that I've noticed about Bank End is it's quite deep. Therefore, if we get a lot of warm sunny weather, I think you're going to possibly be catching shallow. Shallow on the pole maybe, regular loose feeding pellets or pellet waggler, something like that. I do know they catch a lot of fish there on that slow sinking feeder. Okay, it's not something that I've really done a lot of, but I do know it's very effective, and I have seen guys using it to great effect because of the depth of the water. If it's cooler, if it's how it is or this week, which is sort of like up to 10, 11 degrees during the day and sort of dropping down again to 2 or 3 at night, the fish will still be on the bottom. And method feeder will score fantastically well. Don't cast too far, just cast to your peg, 18, 19 metres, something like that. I've been catching a lot of fish there on semi-buoyant bandems. White and yellow really seem to work well with micro pellets around the feeder. I think that's a banker for catching fish at the moment. I also think there's a lot of silverfish to be caught close. Loose feeding casters by hand, but you're gonna need plenty of bait. I would take 2 or 3 pints of maggots or casters to feed short to try and catch a bit of everything. So my personal opinion would be probably start on a method to see what I could catch, but I'd have a waggler set up. If it was really warm, I'd have some shallow rigs set up for the pole. So I hope that helps. Oh, by the way, the F1s are like £1 to £3, so you're going to want elastics, say like 11 hollow, something like that, or probably 013, 015 hook lengths on the method feeder. Nothing stupidly strong, because I just don't think it's necessary just yet, but something to think about anyway. Right, we've got a question from Kelvin. He says, when and why do you decide to fish on the deck or with popped up baits in a match? That's a really interesting question. I think I'm not somebody who's terribly experienced with pop-ups. I have used pop-ups quite a bit, but I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on them. I tend to think that I always start with a bait that's fishing in and around the bottom. I like the semi-buoyant baits, which are critically balanced, because I think it's more important for fish to suck them in. I don't tend to fish with pop-ups on like a method or anything, because I found that I hook the fish around the mouth. I tend to find that pop-ups work quite well when you're fishing just a straight lead and maybe searching for fish. So if you're getting a few liners but you're not catching any fish, that's the time to change to a pop-up. Anything up to 6 feet off bottom can work really well in deep water, but generally speaking 18 inches, 2.5 foot, just to see if the fish are cruising rather than looking for feed. They're looking for an opportunity rather than feed. That's probably when I'd use pop-ups instead. But every single match is a trial and error. Personally, I'd always start on the bottom, see what happens, read my tip, read the tip for bites, see if there's fish in the pegs, and go from there. So I hope that helps you a little bit in the thinking when you're thinking about what pop-ups to use. I think this is the final question for today. Oh, it's quite detailed. It's from Andy. He says, hi, I'm going to renew my elastics for the spring and summer and would value your advice. I have 8 top 4 kits, and 4 of them are match kits, and 8 top kits, 4 are match kits, 4 are power kits, and he goes into the setup a little bit of what he's got at the moment. He likes to go to Messingham, a truly mixed fishery for F1s and large carp. If I had 8 top kits and I was fishing somewhere like Messingham, which is mixed, I think I'd start with my priorities with my power kits, and I'd be thinking heavy elastics. I'd certainly want, if I was going to somewhere like Messingham and the summer and I was expecting to catch big carp in or near the reeds, I'd have a 17 holler. That's a banker for me. A real bagging elastic. Okay, so that's the first one I'd do. I'd then have 2 15 hollers as well, because I think you're probably likely to be fishing in the edge where it's not always going to be pulling it very hard, you know, just guiding the fish out, or maybe a short pole line. So I'd have 3 real strong elastics, 2 15s and a 17. I'd also have a 13 hollow for fishing shallow for carp or on the bottom for carp. I would possibly think about having 2 13s, a 15 and a 17, but you'll have to see, you'll have to experiment yourself to get that balance. But I would certainly have 1 17 and a 15 and 13, and double up on the one that I seem to be using the most. On my lighter kits, I'd probably have some 11s and 8 hollows. So I'd have 2 8 hollows for fishing for silvers, and I'd have 2 11 hollows for maybe fishing on the bottom for F1s or skimmers on those harder days. I've covered then a full spectrum of elastics, and I've tried to double up so I can set up different rigs. I think 2 8s, 2 11s, 2 13s, a 15 and a 17. Lucky guy, plenty of elastics there to help you get going. So I hope that's given you a good guide on what I'd set up. You know, I do like the Preston elastics. They've never ever let me down, so that's why I like to use them. The Dura hollers are also good. But I've sort of focused my attentions on the traditional hollow elastics at the moment, just because I'm enjoying the way they're working, and they're catching me a lot of fish. Every time I catch a fish, it seems to be coming in, and quite quickly, so why not stick with it? Okay, so don't forget, if you've got a question, you want to get a question in, I'll answer it best I can, give you some advice. And even if you haven't got a question, tune into the Q&As regularly, because obviously it always gives you a chance to learn a little bit and listen to how I'm thinking about my fishing. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Q&A. Speak to you later.